Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, December 22nd, 2021, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we do get started, this is a family-friendly podcast. At least we try to be. So we do try to watch our language, but sometimes words do fly, and sometimes we may show things that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. Well, as I said, guys, today is December 22nd. We are 3 days away from a guy in the north ready to deliver presents across the world in one day. But we're not going to argue logistics because a lot of people are traveling right now. So hopefully if you are heading to the airport or driving and things of that nature, may you be safe in where you're going to get to and things of that nature. That also being said, guys, let's not forget the elephant in the room right now. And I mean, simply put, that again, with COVID, there is this one little problem that we have of the Omicron variant and how we're handling it.
With the Omicron variant staff.
Oh.
I spoke with U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy.
You know, that was not supposed to happen. Let's try that again. Wow, that did not go the way I thought that would. That was kind of embarrassing, a little bit. Hang on, guys. Let me go back to it because, wow, that wasn't supposed to happen. But hey, it's the holidays. Things are bound to go wrong anyway. But hang on one second. Let's try this again, shall we? Hopefully we can find what we're looking for. Because I wanted to talk about the Omicron, which again, every time I say Omicron, it feels like a transformer. It really does. I hate to say that because that's why I feel like every time I say Omicron variant, it's like, well, also at the same time, it also makes you feel like you're talking about Loki. But, crap. Did I already lose it? Well, that's helpful. Oh, wow. That was definitely not supposed to happen. Oh, well. Again, guys, what I was going to say with the Omicron variant, that yes, for all those that don't know, there is at least 10 cases in all 50 states. So with that being said, it's getting a little bit difficult to get around. And I have been saying this, that yes, could it be possibly due to the unvaccinated? Yeah, I mean, we could say that. I mean, again, how much is it going to take for you to finally get the hint that yes, unvaccinated people are causing this problem? At the same time, you have a lot of people out there, for the simple fact of the matter, that don't really get the hint. There's no other way I can say this because I'm trying not to be very vocal about this. But yes, for the Omicron variant happening, and it's a little bit more aggressive than the COVID-19, the Muta, and the Delta variants, that yes, the literal thing to do right now, again, with testing, because testing is going to ramp up, mask mandates are going to ramp up. Pretty much, we have to do, and I hate to say this, we have to do all the stuff that we got through to get us out of this. We're going to have to wind up doing all over again, which means masking up, which means social distancing, which means that probably live events will be shut down again. That's just the way it is, because again, these are all the things that we did earlier in the year to make sure that we were able to get to some sense of normalcy that we currently have. But again, I don't know how else to say this, guys. Vaccinations work. If you haven't been vaccinated, what are you waiting for? If you haven't got your booster, please schedule it. If you're not wearing masks, again, I cannot stress this enough. I have yet to run into a case, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments field if you want to, I have yet to run into a case where there's been a COVID test where someone tested positive for COVID, wasn't vaccinated, went to the hospital, somehow survived, and still felt the same way they did post-hospital visit. Again, especially with traveling, you guys are going in airports, train stations, rental car places. Please be safe. That's all I can tell you. Aside from being safe, because right now people are crazy on the roads. But at the same time, vaccinations work. What are y'all actually waiting on at this moment? But again, like I said before, moving right along, because I unfortunately won't find that. I unfortunately won't find that story because, again, I did not think that I would go ahead and close it. That's my bad on that. But let's get to the, for every Christmas story, you have to have a Santa Claus and you have to have a Grinch. And unfortunately, we do have a Grinch. His name, Joe Manchin.
The president is still friends with Senator Joe Manchin. That's despite Manchin's decision that he's a no on the cornerstone bill for the president's agenda. In a radio interview today, Manchin suggested that White House staff drove him to that decision.
You know me, always willing to work and listen and try. I just got to the wit's end, and they know the real reason what happened. They won't tell you, and I'm not going to because
wait. You said they know the real reason. They're not going to tell us. You're not going to tell us. What do you mean? What's the real?
Well, so there's basically, and it's staff. It's staff driven. I understand staff. It's not the president. It's the staff. And they drove some things and they put some things out that were absolutely inexcusable. They know what it is, and that's it.
With me now is Hoppy Kercheval. He is the radio host for Metro News Talkline in West Virginia. He interviewed Senator Manchin this morning. Hoppy, thank you for your time. Let me start there with the senator suggesting that the statement from the White House really isn't the truth about how this all ended and that there was something else at play here. Did you get any clarity from the senator on what that was?
Victor, as you heard there, we were rolling along in the interview and he said that. And I said, wait, what are you talking about here? And he did not elaborate, but I got the sense that there was something else at play here that did not have to do specifically with the president, but rather with staff somewhere in the negotiations that caused Manchin some heartburn. Here's what's important to remember about Manchin. Manchin wants to get to yes. I've known him for a long time, back to his days as governor. He's negotiated a lot of deals. He tries to get to yes, and you have to help him get to yes. But if he feels like that somebody's trying to circumvent him or go around him or put undue pressure, you can handle pressure, but put undue pressure on him, he's going to bow his back and he's going to push back. And I think that's what happened here.
Okay, so again, long story short, Manchin has already reported on Fox News that he is going to be a no on the Build Back Better plan. Of course, that is the cornerstone piece of the Biden administration's agenda as far as expanding the Social Security net for America. And of course, Biden along with Christian Sinema were the only two standouts as far as Democrats saying no on the plan. Although now at this point, Manchin is blaming on the fact that the White House staff are putting in things that are inexcusable. Like pretty much one of the two things that he says was inexcusable was extending maternity leave. Again, maternity leave, which was extended out to 12 weeks, which was cut down to 8, which was cut down to 4, cut completely from the plan, and then re-added back to the plan to 4 weeks leave of pay. Manchin has an issue with this. Manchin also has an issue with EPA regulations being increased for greenhouse gas emissions, which means that the coal miners, especially from his state of West Virginia, would be affected. Keep in mind, Joe Manchin is on the board of a coal mining company there, and is by far, let's just say, he's financially secure. But another thing about Manchin, which again, it's amazing to me that he acts more Republican than Democrat, was a recent story that came out that said that Manchin doesn't believe in giving handouts because, well, it may lead to buying drugs. I wish I could make this up.
Julie, you are in West Virginia. I'm just wondering, any reaction from either the senator himself or people down there to what NBC News is now confirming, that behind the scenes in conversations with other senators about the child tax credit, he was saying that he was worried the money was going to go to drugs and not to kids?
Well, Katie, I've been getting a lot of reaction today from the senator's office, from advocates, and from people on the ground. And I want to start with the advocates who have been texting me nonstop because, remember, West Virginia is one of the states worst hit by the opioid epidemic. So some of them see his comments as completely tone deaf, but for the senator's part, his spokeswoman passed a statement along to NBC News saying Senator Manchin has made clear he supports the child tax credit and believes the money should be targeted to those who need it most. He has also expressed support for a paid leave program that has a dedicated, sustainable funding mechanism. Obviously, that last part, we've heard this in negotiations with Senator Gillibrand, trying to get him to yes. He wants to make sure that people basically deserve to get these programs. And I spoke to a bunch of people on the ground here on both sides of this issue. He's very popular in this state. Obviously, this state has been trending more and more to the right in the last couple of decades. But I want you to take a listen to two people I spoke to today, one on one side of this issue and one on the complete opposite end.
It's inconceivable that at Christmas time, especially, that he would leave 350,000 children in West Virginia and their families without the certainty that they will have enough money to pay the Christmas bills, that they will have enough money to pay their rent.
I can barely put gas in my car now as it is. So, I mean, any other drastic steps that would alter West Virginia at all right now is just, it's kind of scary. I can see why Joe would be skeptical.
So, Katie, you see people have different opinions here on this side of the issue, depending on where their priorities lie. I spoke to mothers here who told me that last child tax credit payment they received on December 15th that made sure their kids got either extra childcare during the week or an extra pair of shoes for school. They're scared they're not going to be able to provide their kids with that come the new year. And I also spoke to people like Wes. You heard from him there, who's concerned about inflation, who's working multiple jobs, and who relies on lumber, on gas, to make ends meet. And if those prices keep going up, he's saying we don't need any more help like this Build Back Better legislation. We just need to control what's happening here.
Okay, so again, as you can see, Manchin believes that people, it only should go, and I love the wording. The wording that the staff used for him was that he believes that these programs should go to those who deserve it. You know what the word that's missing there that they don't want to say? Those that are entitled to it. Sounds like entitlements. Does. It really does. If you think about it, it's literally where Manchin's saying, "Oh, I have nothing against the child care. I have nothing against the child tax credit because, I think in the wrong hands, it will lead to buying drugs." All I could sit there and say is, where have you heard this type of talking before? And I'm not talking from Democrats. You usually hear this from conservatives. You usually hear this on Fox News from Laura Ingraham and douchebag Tucker Carlson and the king of the douchebags, Sean Hannity. You hear it from usually those three that, or you hear it from conservative talk media. You hear it from what's that one guy that looks like a serial killer that's not, that isn't Joel Osteen? Ben Shapiro. Every time I see that dude, I think immediately serial killer. Or Candace Owens. You usually hear that type of talk from those extreme nut jobs. But to hear that from a Democratic senator saying that I believe that these entitlement programs, and it's not about that. That just goes to show you how big of a disconnect it is. Because Manchin, like I said before, is financially secure. Here's the thing. Those who are financially secure have a big, big, big disconnect with reality. Because again, that's what they say. You'll never find a broke politician. You won't. Politicians are much like professional players in any corporate league. They'll always have money. They'll never find a broke one, and they'll never turn down money. That also being said, however, Manchin is financially secure. He doesn't care. Manchin does not care. But here's the thing. He wants a seat. Like as the journalist said in the article, West Virginia is trending Republican. Keep in mind, in the last election, West Virginia did vote Republican. Somehow Manchin kept his seat. Before midterms, I should say in the last election, the presidential election, in West Virginia, they voted Trump. So, of course, Manchin being a Democratic senator in a turning red state, can only think of the one thing that every politician thinks of when it comes down to the midterms, which will be next year: how to keep your job. Because that's what it's going to come down to. In the midterms, all of a sudden, we'll have the politicians. In the midterms, we'll have every senator and every representative's ear. Oh, what can we do? Am I doing a good job? Or is this person doing a good enough job? Or how about, we let them have it. Now it's my turn. That's all it is. It's pandering to you for your vote, which again, you should vote. Not saying you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You should, for many reasons, and another story I'm going to go into later. But again, Manchin is thinking long-term here. And it's selfish because, again, the fact that he's thinking that these entitlement programs lead to negative outcomes tells you off the bat that he literally does not care. And trust me, the Democrats right now need all of the help they can get, especially with the fact that there are people in that state that can certainly use those programs, especially that child care tax credit, which again, as they said, hasn't been extended. The last payment of that program went out this month. There has not been any talk of extending the child care tax credit plan for next month. So again, Manchin and Sinema, specifically Manchin right now, because Manchin has sat there and said he is a no. And because he said he's a no, which again, it was reported later that, he's still working with the Democrats. Imagine this. And I say this about the Democrats all the time. I simply do not understand this, that Democrats have all the right reasons. That they'll talk progressive during the election. And this is what they always do. Democrats, all of them, talk progressive during the election. When they're elected, some of them go center, some of them go moderate, the rest of them remain progressive. You find most of the progressive Democrats in the House. You find more of the moderate Democrats in the Senate. I've said before, moderate Democrats is like Republican light. Still the same BS, just half the guilt. But again, I keep on saying this, there's too much of the old guard of the Democrats in the Senate, and there should be unification. Say what you want about Republicans, and I don't still see how certain people of color and women still consider themselves conservative Republican for a party that cares very little about them, because the party is about old white men. But again, the one thing that Republicans do well, they unite. They toe the party line. When something needs to get put across, when there's a certain bill or law that needs to get passed, all of them say yes. The only time there was ever any dissidence was because a few of them voted to impeach Trump, not once, but twice. But we all know what happens when you go against the hand of the king. You get excommunicated. Don't believe me? Ask Dick Cheney's daughter. Just saying. But we will follow that story as it goes along. Like I said, the Build Back Better plan was supposed to have a vote on this before Christmas. It looks like it may not even get addressed until the new year in 2022. But there is some good news that Biden actually was able to do. But I still say it's inevitable that, for all those that have student loans, President Company included, we were dreading about, payments starting back up again next year. Well, they will, but a little bit farther down the road.
From the White House, the president has just announced he's extending the pause on federal student loan repayments. NBC's Monica Alba is back with me from the White House. Monica, we didn't let you get away very far. A lot of news coming today. Talk to me about the student loans and just extending this. It was supposed to expire January 31st.
This is a really significant development, Andrew. When the president first came into office, he directed the payments be put on pause through August. Then later in the summer, they determined they were going to extend that again as Delta was surging to the end of January, as you point out. And now the president is saying an additional 90 days will go into effect for this pause. So this punts it all the way to May 1st, 2022. And of course, this is something that the administration had been under pressure to make a decision about, given what we're seeing with the economy. And this affects more than 41 million Americans who really felt they wanted this breathing room to continue to figure out what the president and this administration may do overall when it comes to student loans. And it is something that the Department of Education is reviewing with borrowers to see if they're going to make some changes. Of course, there have been many advocates, many Democratic lawmakers even, who've asked the president to consider forgiving up to a certain amount of these loans, potentially $10,000, maybe more. Maybe some have called, of course, for the entirety of it. So this just gives the president, the White House, and the Department of Education more time to figure that out, while people, again, take more time, given, of course, all of the pressure and the unknowns of what the Omicron variant will mean for our uneven economic recovery, Andrea.
Okay, so literally, figuratively, guys, long story short, student loan payments will be on pause till May. I have been saying this. There is no other way I can say this. But Joe, it's time to either own up to your campaign promise or say you're not going to do it. Because I've been saying this about student loans. I will not stop saying this about student loans. They all can be forgiven. I think our student loan debt as of now still stands at about a little over $1.7 trillion. Again, it can be forgiven. It can be. And I've been saying this before. Student loan debt has kept a lot of people, number one, their credit profiles have sunk because of the income to debt ratio. Number two, which prevents a lot of people from getting homes, cars, things of that nature. So credit profiles completely shrunk. Getting homes, that's a big one. You can't be really, have you ever tried to be a homeowner with student loans? Not easy. A lot of people have done it, but they've had to bend over backwards or pay out more money or things of that nature. It would be a lot easier for a lot of people, for the 20 plus million Americans that have student loans right now. Now, don't get me wrong, Biden has done a lot. People who are on PSL loans have had their loans forgiven, have woke up, have found out they have zero balances. Those who were disabled in certain circumstances got their student loans forgiven. Those that were scammed by nonprofit colleges also got their student loans forgiven. So a lot of people have gotten their. A lot of people that fit under that criteria have gotten their student loans forgiven. But there's still a good amount of us that's like, we didn't. We did take out the loans. We did hope to find careers with our degrees, and it didn't happen. And it's at some point we have to move forward. It's like student debt is like a weight around your neck. It doesn't go away. It still sticks. It'll still be stuck to you until you're dead. And that is not a right way of living. And at the same time, I cannot help the fact that these same banks that were allowed to get these student loans out at crazy percentages, APRs and interest rates, that when they go bankrupt or when they run out of money, they can go to the government and be forgiven. And at the same time, it's those same banks that are still allowed to continue and operate right along with Wall Street with zero impertinence. So why is it that, again, I've asked this question because we can forgive student loans. We can. There is, everybody says the money isn't there. Yes, it is. The money is there. Don't believe me. Earlier this year, and I use this for a simple point. Earlier this year, the Biden administration awarded the Department of Defense a $700 billion fund, right? Again, this wasn't maybe 3 weeks ago that they have an extension of that. Now, I just said $700 billion with a B, not million. Billion with a B, $700 billion in funding, right? Earlier this year. Just recently, a little less than 2 weeks ago, they got another extension, another $800 billion, again, to the Department of Defense. So you got $700 billion earlier this year, $800 billion, $800 billion that's going to be given to you guys not too long ago. That's already over $1 billion. That's already over $1 trillion. By the 7 and 8 billion, we're already over $1 trillion. So, and let's keep in mind, the Pentagon has never passed an audit because they can never account for even a penny of where the money goes. And it's that constant bigger piece of the pie of the American budget that nobody wants to ask questions about. So again, if we can give the Department of Defense at this point a blank check, why can't we do the same thing for student loans? And I've heard the arguments, because, you took out the loans, you're responsible for them. You should, in a perfect world, if someone actually was able to get the career with the income, then yes, they'll be able to pay that back. Just like a lot of you guys were able to do who don't have student loans anymore. A lot of you guys during those baby boomer years were able to find jobs because, again, the tuition back then wasn't the crazy amount it is now for the same education. At the same time, for a lot of people out there, it's like, I had student debt and I was able to pay it off. I just had to work a little bit more. Well, bravo. Not everybody has the same situation as you because jobs are not paying, not jobs that are worth having. Again, you don't believe me? 10 million plus jobs out there, and we've already had well over 3 million people resign from their jobs between, that's about 3 to 5 million. That's about right. 3 to 5 million people resign from their jobs between October and December. So again, you can miss me with the arguments. Just because, yes, we can forgive student loans. I think that Biden should go ahead and press that. I think the Democrats should go ahead and press that because, again, if they fulfill one of these campaign promises, the Democrats, I wish they did. If they fulfilled at least one of the campaign promises that they did, they would assure themselves in the midterm elections. Because right now, all Republicans have to sit there and do, besides nothing, is to sit there and say, well, what have the Democrats done for you guys lately? And, those that are conservative minded will forget that the Republicans put them in a deeper hole than Democrats ever could. And they will vote them back in with almost, it's almost like watching a broken record get played again. That's what's going to feel like. But again, Democrats, balls in your court. Especially now, this next story I got that I want to point out is that, again, I've been talking about voting, and I just sat there and told you guys that the simple fact of the matter is the midterms are coming up. And the reason why I said voting is under attack, because again, this is basically from CNN. 19 states passed this year to restrict voting laws, right? Keep in mind, 4 states bundled together an array of new voting restrictions into single omnibus bills: Texas, Florida, Georgia, and Iowa. 4 states, Arkansas, Montana, Texas, Arizona, passed multiple laws to restrict voting. A lot of these state laws seem to hit on common themes. 7, for instance, imposed tougher identification requirements to cast ballots. 7 states also shortened the window to apply in for mail-in ballots. Think about that for a second. Think about what I literally just read to you guys. For the simple fact of the matter, that's just for 19 states. 33 laws got passed. And what did they attack? They attacked identification, because apparently your ID doesn't cut anymore. They're going to sit there and say you're going to have a voter ID, which a lot of states try to push and have yet to get that enacted because they want to sit there. And of course, this is all under the guise of making sure that, nobody illegal votes or that, the elections aren't compromised, which again, the last election we've been in was actually the one election where there was zero fraud. The very few fraud cases that they did find were Republican. So just let you know that right there. So they want to go after mail-in voting, which again was a big thing with the special election in Georgia. A lot of people did mail-in voting or dropped in their voting ballots. And again, to turn the state of Georgia blue, elected 2 Democratic senators. So yes, they are going to go after, and I hate to say this, for a lot of these states, guys, they go after minorities and people of color. That's what they're aiming for because they know that Black people and other minorities will vote in droves. And they know for a lot of these areas that makes up a greater amount of where the majority of the votes will go. Don't believe me? Ask Georgia. When now Brian Kemp is trying to push, and now Brian Kemp, who's still the governor for now, is pushing the goal lines back. He's trying to not only have the voter records purged, he's trying to make it more difficult by closing down voting areas so where you can go vote and making mail-in voting, again, restricting mail-in voting for those that fit under a certain kind of criteria. Guys, I will never not stop saying this enough. If voting didn't matter, why are they making it so much more harder for you to do it when they could be making it easier? That's why I said the whole Voting Rights Act, had we pushed that forward, Democrats again should have pushed that forward and said, look, folks, this makes it easier. Number 1, you're automatically registered. Number 2, we're making election day a federal holiday. You don't have to work on that day. You can simply get up and go vote instead of having to worry about working and then somehow getting to the polling place on time to go vote. And at the same time, they're protecting your right to vote so states cannot enact crazy laws that would prevent you from either mail-in voting or early voting or things of that nature. But again, the Voting Rights Act got shot down, just like the John Lewis Act got shot down, which again, only because they don't want you to vote. That's what Republicans are afraid of. That's the reason why the downfall of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump was like, oh, well, mail-in voting is not going to affect us. It affected him greatly. That's why he's not president anymore. It affected the special election. That's why Georgia's a blue state now for now. Because, again, Republicans did not count the fact that in this pandemic, where we had an election, that a lot of people did choose to vote, and a lot of people organized to get people registered to vote, only because, yes, when minorities vote, it makes a difference. Hence why I keep telling you guys, voting will always make a difference, and the numbers are there to prove it. Speaking of things that make a difference, guys, you heard me talk about in previous podcasts where you have some people, especially Texas, because I don't know why, between Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida, it seems to be the hold my beer challenge. And Texas right now seem to be pulling away because Texas, in Texas, where I keep on saying, the story of Fahrenheit 451, where people burn books. Well, similar to that in Texas, not burning books, but they're banning books because they say it's pornography, witchcraft, all this stuff, which again doesn't exist in a public library, in a school library, just because librarians cultivate and make sure that the literature there is for kids. But anyway, because the librarians being under attack, they're finally fighting back, and I, for one, am all for it.
This is a school librarian in Texas. Why are you afraid to show your face?
There was a day not too long ago when I had to stop and think, when they come in with handcuffs and they come in with a warrant for my arrest for alleging that I provided obscene material to minors, who am I going to call first?
Across Texas, protesters at school board meetings are accusing educators of forcing pornography or obscene content on children.
This is not a political thing. This is not a witch hunt. This is genuine concerns for children. It's abuse. It is grooming behavior. It's predatory.
The anger is largely aimed at school libraries, and many Texas politicians are on board. In October, Republican state legislator Matt Krause requested every school district in the state scour their libraries for a list of 850 books.
The infamous Texas list, the pattern seems to be books that are representative of LGBTQIA subjects and characters and topics. Books that may contain depictions or narratives of sexual violence, survivor stories, some books that are about racism.
The list includes New Kid, a graphic novel about a black student's struggles fitting in at a majority white school. The letter Q, queer writers' notes to their younger selves. And The Cider House Rules, a coming-of-age story that features a character who performs abortions. Republican Governor Greg Abbott took things a step further, ordering officials to investigate any criminal activity in public schools after complaints about 2 LGBTQ-themed books he said were pornographic.
I have never experienced anything like that before, where a government agency or any kind of government entity was interested in specifically what kinds of books were in the library.
The Texas Library Association is traditionally a pretty sleepy advocacy group, but the heated rhetoric is forcing that to change. Last week, the group set up an anonymous hotline for librarians afraid of job consequences.
School librarians don't go into this business to harm kids. They are working really, really hard to select books that represent everyone on their campus.
This is happening all over the country. LGBTQ and racial-themed books written for children and young adults are facing powerful resistance. Educators are being put on notice.
This is pornography, plain and simple, and it does not belong in our schools.
Just since the start of the school year, the American Library Association has tracked more than 230 book challenges nationwide. The ALA says there's been a dramatic uptick in challenges to books featuring LGBTQ and racial themes.
LGBTQIA plus students like me who are being harassed for not conforming to antiquated notions of gender roles and how they should express themselves.
Here we go. Yay.
There you go.
There it is.
Librarians are starting to fight back in a very librarian way.
This week we're sharing books that were gifts in people's lives. And so I'm going to kick this off by sending my first tweet from our Freedom Friday account.
Carolyn Foote is a retired librarian and one of the founders of the group Freedom Fighters. In just a month, it's become the grassroots way librarians under threat find and help each other.
It's amazing how widespread these book challenges are. People are contacting us like privately from all over the country saying, can you help me?
Scared, nervous, unsure,
Worried they might lose
worried.
their job.
I've heard that too, or I'm hearing this from my district, or they don't know this. What do I do?
They're facing pressure, external pressure. Like, what if I'm called out at a board meeting or someone's in front of my house? So really, it's a time when people need a lot of support.
Librarians helping librarians, so librarians can get back to helping kids.
I grew up reading Trumpet of the Swan and Little House on the Prairie, and I mean, there were no, Hispanic girls. That's a disservice to kids, and so we work really hard as librarians to make sure that kids have books that they can see themselves in, but we also want to offer books where kids can learn about other kids' lives.
And who knows that that's something that would get you demonized.
Governor Greg Abbott's office didn't respond when we asked for comment on what librarians in Texas are telling us. We also reached out to Matt Krause and stopped by his office.
Hello? Do you think you're going to win this, or do you think you're going to lose this?
It's not about whether I will win or lose this. I think it's a point in our culture and our society when we have to ask ourselves, what do we stand to lose if we don't correct action and course now? We can't.
And she's right. I mean, I don't mean to cut her off, but I mean, she's right. Reading, who knew? Look, I'll be the first person to say it. And I'm not the first person to say it. I'm certainly not going to be the last person to say it. Reading is fundamental. It is. Reading is fundamental. I love reading, whether it's books, manga, comic books, science books, and currently it's been IT books, but still, reading is fundamental. For a child, it's learning, it's entertainment, it's an escape from reality. It's a lot of things, but I love the fact of what that one librarian said, representation of it all. That, I've said before, people of color should always see other authors by people of color, because we see ourselves. That's why a lot of these things, like I said before, when it comes to Alex Haley's roots, or it comes to our history, or if it comes to I just got brain dead for a second, but there's multiple authors out there that I recommend for people of color, especially not just Black people, but also of other ethnic groups as well. But it is amazing to me that nowadays, because keep in mind, this is just a branch off, because a lot of people thought that critical race theory is being taught in schools. Spoiler alert, it's not. Critical race theory is a class in law school. So unless you're becoming a lawyer, a student will never hear about this. But I always sit there and said, you know what? Maybe it should be introduced in schools. Maybe we should take out social studies and introduce civics again. So students will be interested. Students will learn about the Constitution. Just saying. But again, with reading, it's almost like, well, it's pornography. Well, what's pornography? Well, it's LGBTQ. Okay, that's not pornography. If a person of the LGBTQ plus community is writing about their experiences, things of that nature, and what they see and how they view the outside world, it's not pornography. You may not agree with the lifestyle, but it's certainly not pornography. A Black person gives their perspective of being the only person in a white dominated society. Invisible Man. Again, I mean, not that it was written that way, but I do love the book of Invisible Man. But again, it just goes to show you that yes, there are a lot of stories out there that aren't pornography. The only thing about it that a lot of people don't like, it'll make you think. And I've been saying that when it literally and figuratively, for some odd reason, people in Texas are afraid of their children thinking. It's almost like repressive. It's almost like, you know what it is? It's literally the fact of saying it is completely okay to see different perspectives out there that don't agree with your own. And they're afraid of it. I've never understood it. There's been my perspective is not always right. It's not 100% right. It definitely is not. But I embrace other people's perspectives and their ideas and how they view things, because you should not view life through a single layer lens. You should not. You should be able, at least we should be able to in this day and age, should be able to converse and debate and conversate and either agree to disagree, or we'll just come to an agreement. But it should be that just like we have this market enterprise that apparently capitalists love, we should also have that same free market of independent and intellectual conversations and different ways of viewing stuff to where we can expand our horizons. And that's the thing that Texas is afraid of. Texas people out there are highly conservative, mostly religiously repressive, at the same time afraid, because you think that if you let your kid read an LGBTQ book that they're going to become gay. And so what if they are? My thing is, I've never understood that. What is the fear that, these people out here can turn people? I'm like, if that's the case, you should be worried about white girls dating black kids. That was always white man's greatest fear. White man's greatest fear was that we would breed them out. That was the fear that a lot of people had about interracial dating. That we would white people numbers would drop. But again, that's what I'm saying before. This is why I sit there and say reading leads to critical thinking. If that's what we need in this world, is literally more critical thinkers and less foot stompers. That's just my opinion. But Texas seems to be going with this whole idea of we need to get rid of these books because, again, what's the whole point of removing these books from school that you think are pornographic? What are you going to do when they get out of college? What are you going to do when they get out of school? I've always said it best. The more you try to repress the world from kids, the more they're going to find out anyway. So it's either, do you want them to learn a controlled environment to where you can guide them and have them fully understand, or have them out there in the world and they experience it full blown and no telling what can happen from there. You'll still be just as shocked or appalled. But again, it's like, let's actually help with the learning, not turn it down. But switching gears for these couple of stories before we get to our feel good segment, guys. I did want to sit there and say this: the case of Kim Potter, the woman who mistaken her gun for a taser, the killing of Dante Wright. They have actually finished closing arguments and are now beginning jury deliberations. I believe they're now in day 3.
Potter charged in the death of Dante Wright. Potter, the former Minnesota police officer, her life now in the hands of the jury after closing arguments were heard from the prosecution and the defense. Kim Potter, 49 years old, charged with first-degree and second-degree manslaughter in the April 11th incident outside of Minneapolis, and she has pleaded not guilty to both charges. For more, let's bring in ABC's Morgan Norwood in Minneapolis. And Morgan, we've heard the closing arguments today from both the prosecution and the defense. What stood out to you about them?
Yeah, Terry, anytime you have closing arguments, the key in these types of situations is going to be the diction, the colorful language that the prosecutors and the defense attorneys painted. It's really their last pitch to really illustrate the final picture to the jury. So language like she did this, negligence, things like that. That's what really stood out to me. Also with the prosecution, but they really, the emotional testimony that we heard on Friday almost sort of backfired. We heard the prosecution really lean into that and talking about how Kim Potter should be emotional, she should be remorseful, and then just leaning into the fact that yes, there were actions that led up to Dante Wright's death, in which the prosecution said ultimately that Kim Potter was responsible for.
And as you know, on the other side, during the defense's closing arguments, Kim Potter's attorney argued she can't be held responsible, and he flat out blamed Dante Wright for his own death. Let's listen to that moment.
Second, the defendant caused the death of Dante Wright. Kim Potter caused the death of Dante Wright. The death of Dante Wright was caused by the defendants committing a reckless handling of a use of firearm. Caused. And that's in the second elements of manslaughter too. The defendant caused the death of Dante Wright. So I can stop right here, because if you presume what you have to do, if you presume that she did not cause the death, what you have to do by the presumption of innocence, did they prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she caused this death? No. Dante Wright caused his own death, unfortunately. The defendant is not guilty of a crime if he used deadly force as authorized by law. this is important. To prove guilt, the state must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant's use of deadly force was not authorized by law.
There, the defense attorney in the trial of Kim Potter essentially blaming the victim, Dante.
Okay, so if that's your lawyer that's going to sit there and say, well, use of force was necessary. If, again, for all those that need a refresher course on this, Kim Potter sat there and screamed, taser, 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 while holding a gun, fired at point blank range into Dante Wright's chest, effectively murdering him. And you have literally the defense lawyer saying, well, Dante Wright's own actions led to his death. Where have we heard this before? And like, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, guys, but where have we heard this before? This is not surprising what they will say to get the person off. And I mean, again, this is honestly, I've said this before, guys. This is honestly character assassination 101. Which basically what I'm saying here is just that when they, and I say they, when they decide that the case against them at this point is irrefutable, which means that it's no question. Kim Potter did pull her gun, which again, how do you mix up your gun and a taser, which is usually black and yellow or red handled sometimes, depending on the make or model, screaming taser, 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 and you fired a gun and you're like, I can't believe I shot him. And at the same time, this would have never went to case had the video never went to public. But the defense lawyer is throwing on a Hail Mary. You want to know why? Because it's happened in every other case. It happened with George Floyd. George Floyd was responsible for his own death. The defense lawyer said that. Ahmaud Arbery, he's responsible for his own death. Look how dirty his, talked about how dirty his feet and toenails and things of that nature was. That was said in his case. I can keep going down the line. In every case where a black man was murdered, they always say the same thing. His situation caused his own demise. Why? Because again, character assassination. Character assassination 101. When you cannot possibly defend your client, you go after the person. You go after the person that they accosted. You go after the person they accosted. 101. Now, again, this is, like I said before, that's actually, and like I said, they've been deliberating now for 3 straight days. I'm assuming they are probably going to call it because of the holidays, or probably postpone it. But the point of it is, guys, is just that Kim Potter, at this point, it should be a no-brainer, which, again, I'm surprised that it takes 3 days. Like, what are we really deliberating here? But then again, I've always said it best, like with the Ahmaud Arbery case, that I was afraid that those 3 men could walk, which thankfully they didn't. All 3 were found guilty, and they're still going to be facing hate crimes as far as that being trial coming up very soon. But the point I'm making is just that the possibility was there. The possibility there is that they could have walked. In the same sense with the Kim Potter trial, is there a possibility that she could walk? Unfortunately, yes. Even though all the evidence sits there and says there was definitely negligence, there was definitely a lack of professionalism, and it led to the death of a person that did not require deadly force. Plain and simple. But the fact that it's still being deliberated for 3 days by a jury makes me wonder, it makes me wonder whether or not she's going to walk. But again, we will follow that story as it comes along. And if there is any news between here and, of course, Christmas, we will see. But I can't help but wonder, because like most black folks, we can't help but wonder if the possibility is that she could possibly walk. But speaking of things that, again, like I said, shifting gears for a second, I know it's like school shootings now are being taken more seriously just because of what happened in Oxford, Michigan. That the fact that, yes, there is a possibility that not only the parents, but the school is responsible for that one student and it could have been prevented. Now there is a zero tolerance thing going on with any school, especially when a teacher decides that they're going to go ahead and make false threats. And again, when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
This is the People versus Jonna Ruth Roan. The 59-year-old Jefferson Middle School art teacher is accused of leaving handwritten notes, some threatening violence.
Was seen on school surveillance placing a note under a classroom door and going into 2 other classrooms where a threatening note stating, quote, "Start break early, he's going to do it, just don't be in the hall after lunch, boom, get it," end quote.
The allegations provoked a reaction from Rome, who's worked at Jefferson Middle School for 21 years.
Mr. Leone, we instruct the client not to make any statements. Please stay silent, okay?
Roan is charged with making a false report or threat of terrorism, a 20-year felony.
I understand that there's footage from the school that I have not seen yet. She's denying these allegations. She's flat out denying them.
Macomb County Prosecutor Peter Lucido says his office is taking a zero-tolerance approach.
This is a threat made to these children that are in school and also to all kids across the state. We expect more from our teachers.
Since the Oxford High School shooting, there have been a rash of threats made against schools across Metro Detroit.
This is the first case, as the prosecutor indicated during the arraignment, of an adult, a teacher. And therefore, I only wonder what is going to come.
As I said before, these folks ain't playing. I mean, what would happen? What would happen over at Oxford, Michigan with that school shooting? Do you think at one point these schools are taking this lightly? No, and the fact that it came from a teacher screams volumes. And of course, they said that the school has footage. I'm sorry, every school's got cameras. If they caught you on camera dropping off these notes, then that's a no-brainer. You should be arrested on terrorism charges. You should be stripped of your educator status, things of that nature. Because again, this is the reason why I keep on saying, no, don't ignore the signs. If you see it, report it. If you see something, say something. It's not that. It's just that simple. Especially with this is coming from a teacher. That's the wild part. That it's coming from a teacher versus a student. But now you see that a lot of these school systems, these people out here, they are not playing anymore, and rightfully so. Just because the sooner you react, the sooner you can actually save lives. So don't feel bad for that teacher. She probably had. I mean, if it is true, if she is caught on video doing all this, then hey, she's got it coming. But last story I got, guys, before we get to our feel good segment. Again, I did want to cover the story of Kellogg's. That, of course, with the strike, which may be over as they are ratifying a deal that was sent to the union, and I believe that they did actually vote on that and accept it. But here's the news on it.
Like the year of the union, workers across the country are seizing this moment to demand better pay, new benefits, and more job security. The latest development involves the company that makes cornflakes. The union representing employees at Kellogg's has voted to ratify a tentative contract. Labor reps say the deal involves no concessions on the part of their members. In early October, 1,400 members went on strike. They worked at cereal plants in Omaha, Memphis, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and the company's headquarters of Battle Creek, Michigan. You will meet one of those workers in just a moment. Kellogg's chairman and CEO Steve Cahillane said that he is pleased to have reached an agreement. He added that he looks forward to the workers returning after Christmas. Joining us now is Daniel Osborne, the president of the Omaha chapter of the Bakery, Confectionery, Tobacco Workers, and Grain Millers International Union. That's the union representing these workers at Kellogg's. Mr. Osborne, welcome.
Thank you, Joshua.
We should note we did ask Kellogg's to make someone available for an interview. The company said that no one was available, but of course, our invitation stands. Mr. Osborne, let me start with you and your reaction to the deal that was reached. I gotta say, having negotiated a few contracts before, I was amazed at the statement that said that there were no concessions. None whatsoever, zero. The union didn't agree to do anything to make any kind of deals, concessions, compromises. You got everything you wanted?
Well, no, that's not entirely true. Not if you look at what we set out to accomplish, we were looking for a positive head count to where they can eliminate jobs, like in Battle Creek, Michigan, where they're set to eliminate jobs. We would have liked to have seen a little bit better on our retiree health insurance. But otherwise, I feel like we got a pretty good contract. A lot of us are relieved to be going back to work. I feel a lot of pride for all of our members standing up for what they believe in, what was right and just for the American workers. I think this is a win for us, and I think this is a win for the labor movement around America. I would like to touch on that, we still have strikes going around the country. This isn't over yet. This, like I said, this is a win for us, but you still have the UMWA coal workers striking against met coal in Alabama. Those folks have been on for 9 months, and like I said, we have to keep the labor movement going. We have to keep pushing forward with that.
Let me ask you about the work that you and your fellow union members do. Can you just walk me through? The only thing I know about what it's like to work in a cereal plant is what I saw in like a Honey Bunches of Oats commercial. And I would like to hear from someone who actually does it. Like, if I worked in this line of work, what are some of the things that I might be saying, I like this job, but this could be better, that could be better, that's too hard, that's not right. Like, what are some of the things that people deal with day to day that this contract is meant to address?
Yeah, this contract was basically meant to address, from our standpoint, the equalization of labors. We have a 2-tier wage system where I'll be working side by side with an employee. We're making $12 an hour less than me, and we're doing the same job. The day-to-day operations in a manufacturing plant where we produce the cereal. I'm a mechanic, and it's a very fast pace. It's very hazardous. There's a lot of things that can jump out and hurt you. I myself had a major hand injury where I had 5 surgeries in 2015 on my right hand. We work 12 hours a day. We work 7 days a week to get it done. That's not what we were complaining about in the first place. That's what we did through the pandemic, why they made record profits. That's kind of what started all this, is we felt like we deserved our fair shake, our piece of the pie. So that's what we set out to do, and that's a lot of what we got.
I know I got to let you go in just a second, but 2 weeks ago, the company was apparently prepared to replace all 1,400 of the people who had gone on strike. President Biden publicly criticized Kellogg for that. And then Senator Bernie Sanders showed up at a picket line in Michigan. Here's part of what he said. Watch.
And I'm here today not just because you're on strike. I'm standing here today because you have had the incredible courage right here to take on corporate greed.
Before I have to let you go, what needs to happen now, both on the company's end and on the union's end, so that the next 5-year deal doesn't end with a strike? What's some of the groundwork that needs to be laid now so that when it's time to renegotiate, you can just kind of renegotiate and get back to work?
Yeah, I think from the union standpoint, we need to keep pushing the politicians. I'd like to thank Bernie Sanders and President Biden and all the politicians and all the community support that we've had, that we were able to stand strong and be able to fight, a corporate giant like that. But, we need to pass the PRO Act from the union standpoint. And, from the company standpoint, we have to prove our worth moving forward. And we have to prove to the companies that we're worth what we get paid for. We're professional cereal makers. We've been doing it. I've been doing it for 18 years. A lot of people have been doing it longer. So we just need to continue to prove our worth and make sure that the company produces, and we're going to be a big part of that.
Right. And just to be clear.
Okay. So literally, as I've been saying so many times, guys, unions work. I mean, I'm glad that Kellogg's, the workers at Kellogg's did stick together. They've been on strike since October, and they did ratify the decision. Did they get everything that they possibly wanted? Of course not. Of course, they didn't get everything. But again, they didn't actually. But again, they're actually able to sit there and increase their living, increase their wages, things of that nature. This is why I keep on telling you guys, and I don't mean I will keep saying this. I will not change I will not change this to a private to where only friends can see it on my list, because this is actually being broadcast on YouTube and Facebook right now. But I will say this, and I'll stand behind it. There is no such thing as corporate loyalty. Corporations only know how to do one thing and one thing alone: push profit. Don't believe me? Look at Amazon. I guarantee, as of right now, let's see, it's 9:43 Central Standard Time. I guarantee out there right now in my home state of Tennessee, there's at least 10 Amazon drivers that are still on the road trying to deliver packages. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Why? Because Amazon will push profit over people all the time. And I say this so many times, guys. Corporations hate unions. Corporations do not like being held accountable. I know it's a weird thing to say, but it's true. Corporations do not like accountability, especially from unions, because unions will hold them to that, because unions represent the people. Unions have been representing the people since the beginning of the industrial age. So why at this point is it crucial? You saw it with John Deere, you saw it with Kellogg's. At the same time, you saw it with Starbucks, because now there's actually 3 stores in Starbucks in New York that have unionized. And what has Starbucks said? Oh, well, you guys can do it, but why should you? Because again, corporations don't like accountability. So if you're in an area to where you can unionize, go ahead and do it. If you're in an area to where a union already exists, go ahead and do it. Because trust me, corporations will not. You saw what Kellogg's was trying to do. Kellogg's almost sat there and said, you know what? If you guys don't want to come back, we'll replace all 1,400 of you. Think about that. John Deere did the same thing. They tried to replace their union workers with non-union workers and had multiple accidents on the first day. So again, I cannot stress this enough. Unions work. At the same time, the benefits there are different than you trying to go against the company on your own. That's why I keep telling you guys, and that's why I keep telling the Dell story. And like I said before, I got plenty of people that I'll agree with, that'll go with me on this about Michael Dell. Michael Dell hates unions. We were told that when I was working for Dell many moons ago. He hates unions. If there was talk about union, he would close down the plant and move somewhere else. Only because they don't like unions. Think about this for a second. Ask yourself one question. I'm just going to point this out before we get to our feel good segment. Ask yourself one question. The top 10 companies in America right now, do they have unions? I'm just ponder me that, because I know the answer. The answer honestly is no. If you look at the top 10 companies in America right now, the top 10 profit, now I'm talking profit, the ones that are actually, boasting about making millions and sometimes billions of dollars, those are the ones I'm talking about. The ones that are these profit-making ones, check to see if they have a union or not. You'll be fine. If you could find at least one, you'll be surprised. Just because collective bargaining agreements, unions help out people who are not the CEOs, who are not the senior manager teams, who are not the company owners. Because again, corporations hate unions. You can tell me I'm wrong in the comments if you want to, but history's always proven me right. That being said, guys, we're going to go and move on to our feel-good segment, because usually how the Frack we got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you lose faith in the human race. But hey, we want to leave you on a good note. We're 3 days away from Santa Claus visiting some of you. I know. I should stop that. Santa Claus is going to visit everybody. Again, one day, I still say Santa Claus is a time lord, but that's a whole other thing. But again, we want to, of course, we want to always leave you guys with something, with a feel-good story, something to warm up your heart, something that makes you feel great, and sometimes, might inspire you to do great work or do things for someone else. That's the whole point of it. And I believe I found a story that just because it's Nutcracker and just because it's holidays, this young man who I happen to see in this video, to me, is amazing.
Dancer who taught himself and taught the rest of us too. Tonight, the holiday performance in Wilmington, Delaware, and they are celebrating their newest star. LJ Marshall, who just turned 7, making his stage debut in the Nutcracker Ballet, his hat on with help from the mouse. Warming up in the aisles, the hallways, the flips. What's incredible is that LJ has never performed on stage before, entirely self-taught from videos online. The Wilmington Ballet saw a video of him dancing, performing right in his neighborhood, on the street. Stunned by his talent, his confidence, they would meet LJ and his family, offering him a full scholarship. Training with the ballet for weeks, cartwheels, backbends, leg lifts, no fear. And right before his big debut,
hi, David.
LJ telling us why he does it.
Make me happy and make me want to dance.
Hello, David. Tonight, the ballet on the lessons they and so many are learning from LJ.
He will inspire other children who look like him. He loves what he's doing, and he's fearless in pursuing it. And I think that's something we all can learn from.
It's LJ's moment. The splits, the leg lifts, and the splits again. Tonight, LJ's mother, Ramona, and all of us proud.
Dreams do come true. If you just work hard and continue to progress at what you want to do and what you want to be, it happens.
I'm sure it's just the beginning for.
And I thought that was cool. I will always say it. I may not know much about ballet or a lot of humanity arts. I say ballet is really poetry in motion. And I always, like I said before, I know I'm being very partial when I say I like to see my people succeed. And I've been saying this a long time ago. I mean, aside from that young man joining the Nutcracker and doing ballet and seeing how talented he is, there are droves of us out there. Like I've been saying before, you see them do gymnastics on mattresses, on the ground, on concrete. You see them do jumps and flips and somersaults, rotations, things that, you know, you usually see in a dance studio. There are black men out there doing the same thing. If it wasn't for this stereotype, and like I said before, ballet is sport. If you've never seen, and I'll tell people all this time, if you've never seen how people train for ballet, it is a sport. I will always defend that. It is a sport. The way they train and put their bodies through it, it is a sport. At the same time, I always sit there and say, if we can drop this stigma, if we can truly drop the stigma about young black men doing gymnastics, doing ballet, we would dominate in so many other areas. If we could just drop the stigma that it's not cool or if it's gay or it's feminine, which it really is not. A ballet is honestly for anybody. The human body in motion is poetry in itself. And to see a young man who trained himself have that type of raw talent, I mean, it's just beautiful to watch. And I just, like I said, I like seeing my people succeed. If there's anything I will say above all else, I just like seeing black people succeed. And it just warms my heart. But with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. I do thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know that's live, and for commenting. I certainly do appreciate that. Before I do get out of here, I do do some shameless plugging, as I usually do. Now, of course, my other podcasting brother and friend, Vaughn, Big BZA. He's actually on his Christmas vacation right now. But you can check the best of his stuff and his replays, which you can find on his Facebook page, Vaughn Westman on Facebook, Big BZA on socials, where you can still catch Smoking Trail Sunday repeats every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m., in which he goes over movies, video games, television reviews, and things that he finds interesting that he wants to share with you. And, of course, every Tuesday, the REF, which is America's Funniest Home Videos, done by World Star, can still be seen every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Again, it's only for the grown and intended. Please do not bring your kids. And of course, all his replays can be seen on his Facebook page at Big BZA. Either Westman on Facebook or Big BZA on all socials. Also, shout out to Ari and Gee present Geek Salad. They also allowed me to share my podcast on their page. I appreciate it, fellas. What is Geek Salad? Basically, it's a podcast by Ari and Gee. I got to meet them earlier this year. Very good, nice group of guys, which they cover all things pop culture and some things outside of pop culture, completely unfiltered and for the ones that are willing to listen to hear it. Me and Ari usually have an ongoing argument about Cider, but that's neither here nor there. But definitely check them out and definitely like and subscribe to them because they really do present a unique perspective on a lot of things, and I appreciate them for that. But again, Geek Salad on Facebook and on YouTube. Now, as for yours truly, guys, the link that is pretty much scrolling at the bottom, if you copy and paste that into your browser, will take you to my link tree. That has the Facebook and YouTube groups for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course, the Offman's Podcast. Of course, my IG handle that you can see right there in my name at BlackFox447. You can definitely follow me there on Instagram. I usually post movie reviews, video game reviews, gym stuff, because, you know, I do a couple push-ups. Aside from that, guys, I do like to do some inspirational stuff or stuff that just hits me. Like I said, I like to put out stuff that gets people thinking, gets people talking, because I am a conversationalist. I do kind of get hyped when I have a good conversation or a good debate, usually about anything. So definitely follow me there, as long as you're not weird or you're not trying to sell me crypto or you're not trying to turn you're not trying to give me a cash app you $1,000 so you can turn it $10,000. As long as you're not in that criteria, cool. Follow me. I'm good with that. Aside from that, guys, like I said, we still have one more show, which is basically going to be our Get Bit show on Christmas Eve. Me and Joe are definitely going to be doing that. Of course, there will not be a weekend review for How the Frack We Got Here because it's Christmas and you should be enjoying it, whether it's your loved ones or your friends or your family or all the above. So there will definitely not be a weekend review of How the Frack We Got Here. And of course, for Off Limits, there will not be one. However, we will make up for that in the next week. So aside from that, guys, the last couple things I'll say before I get out of here is, again, if you have the ability to make somebody's life great, whether it's a minute, day, an hour, or a lifetime, go ahead and do so. The world could honestly use more random acts of kindness. And at the same time, guys, as I said before at the beginning of this podcast, the Omicron variant is definitely being more aggressive, and we may have to go back to social distancing. We may have to go back to full mask, even when vaccinated, even in certain areas. But what I'll say, this goes to the unvaccinated. Please get vaccinated. Please get your shot. Please get your booster shot. Help us get these numbers down. It's not just about getting our hospital numbers down. It's also making sure that people who need life-saving treatment and medications, those that get kidney dialysis, those that actually get transplants, blood infusion, things of that nature, they do need to be able to go to the hospital to do those things, but they won't be able to do so as long as there's a hospital bed with a COVID patient. If we get those numbers down, we can actually help those people that need that life-saving treatment get what they need. So please, above all else, stop with the unvaccinated and actually get the shot, because as of right now, what other excuse that you have? Because I don't want to see anybody else die from this. I want to see us all get past it, just like we are able to get past the pandemics of the past. The last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We're not trying to change minds, persuade people. We're simply trying to give you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind for yourself. We do a lot better as a society once we're informed with the right information. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have made back then. Like electing our first Madam Vice President who is Black. Still hoping out for Michelle Obama and her husband in 2024, because I would love nothing more to sit there and say Madam President Michelle Obama and Chief Supreme Court Justice Barack Obama. Because let's be honest, when Michelle was in the White House, we felt so much better. That being said, guys, thank you all for watching. If you're watching this on the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know what you guys think. Aside from that, definitely have a happy Hanukkah, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy Kwanzaa, and all the other religious things that I did not say that you may be able to celebrate. That too. Aside from that, guys, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll all get through this. Peace.